Okay, so in today's lesson we are simplifying radicals, and we've done this a time before, but it's sort of different because today we're simplifying as opposed to estimating. When we estimate, we try to make an approximation or a guess on what the decimal is. So if it was the square root of 8, for example, right here, we would say the square root of 8 is somewhere between, again, the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, which is 2 or 3. So we know that. Let me write 3 a little bit better there. So we know that if we were guessing or approximating, the square root of 8 would be somewhere between 2 and 3. And because the square root of 8 is so close to the square root of 9, I would take a guess it's like 2.9 if I had to take a guess. Okay? However, we're not necessarily doing approximating or estimating today. Today we're simplifying, which means we're not going to round, we're not going to use decimals. We want the answer to be as exact as possible. So what we're going to do is, I'll show you a different way here. Okay, so let me erase all this stuff because we don't want to use that today. All right, so let me write the square root of 8 over here so we have a little bit more room. So essentially what we want to do is, we want to break down the square root of 8 into its most simplest parts. And in mathematics, the way we break down things to its simplest parts is that we find all the prime factors in a number. Meaning, we need to break it down to numbers that are prime, factors that have only 1 in itself to divide itself into. So, I can break down 8 by 2, because 2 is prime, and 2 goes in 8 4 times. Then, I can break down 4 into 2 and 2. So all I have left are 2's. So notice all these 2's I have here. All these 2's. So basically where the little trees or the branches end, all should be prime numbers because I can't keep going with 2. The only things that go into 2 are 2 and 1. So I have 3 2's left. When I simplify square roots, or in this case radicals, okay, in this case I have to pull out pairs, meaning I have 2 2's right here, and I have 1 2 that remains. Okay, so when I do that, I pull out the pair, but I only have to write it once. And then whatever doesn't have a buddy, like this 2 right here, that 2 doesn't have a buddy, so it stays inside the radical. So the answer to the square root of 8 is 2 square root of 2. Okay, and now a big question these students usually ask is, wait, but you circled 2 2's in the blue circle there, how come you only write it once on the outside? Okay, here's my best explanation. So, the square root of 4, we know that equals 2, because 4 is a perfect square. But when you break down 4, doesn't that mean 2 times 2, right? But we know the square root of 4 is 2. There's only 1 2 there. But when you break down 4, it's 2 times 2. But in your answer to the square root of 4, you only have to write the 2 once. So, when you break down the radicals, you only pull out pairs. And the numbers that don't have a pair, you leave them inside of the radical. Okay? Just to make sure we have the idea, let's do the square root of 32 here. So the square root of 32. Okay? Let's see, I know some students, but 4 and 8. Right? 8 times 4 equals 32. Absolutely. And then I can break down 4 into 2 times 2. 8 breaks down to 2 times 4. And then 4 breaks down to 2 times 2 again. Okay? So I have a whole bunch of 2's. Okay? I need to pull out the pairs. Okay? Here's a pair. So there's 1. And look, I have another pair of 2's. So I can pull that out. And now they don't have to be next to each other to be pairs. They can be anywhere in the tree. Just make sure you circle 2 at a time. And then I have a 2 that's left over. Okay, so I have this 2 down here that's left over. So that stays inside of the square root. Now, everything that's on the outside, you multiply together. So 2 times 2 right there equals 4. And then I still have the square root of 2 inside the radical. Okay, so the square root of 32, to simplify, is 4 square root 2. All right, let's do a couple big numbers here to make sure we got this all figured out. All right, 112. Oh, boy. Okay, well, I know 2 goes in there because it's even. All right, now I got to do some margin math. 2 divided by 112. 2 doesn't go in the 1. 2 goes in 11 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. And that equals 1, breaking down to 2. 2 goes in 12 6 times. So 56. Okay. All right. Can't keep going with 2, but I can keep going with 56. 7 times 8. Right? 7 times 8 equals 56. 7's a prime number, so we can keep going with the 8, though. 2 and 4. And then the 4 breaks down to 2 and 2. All right. So let's pull out my pairs. Let's see, I have a pair of 2's right here. Okay. And I have a pair of 2 and a 2 right here. So these are pairs, so I pulled another pair of 2's. And all I have left is this 7. So I leave that inside of the radical because it has no pairs. Then we multiply whatever's on the outside if there's two things. So 2 times 2 equals 4. And then the 7 stays on the inside, 7. All right, finally, 150, the big dog. Okay. Now, I know 150 is even, but there's a bigger number that goes in the 150, and that's 5. And 5 goes in 150 30 times. And then 5 goes in the 30 6 times. And then we can break down 6 to be 2 and 3. All right. So, I have a pair of 5's here. Perfect. So that means I write 5 here. And then I have a 2 and a 3 that are separated, meaning they don't have any pairs. So I have to write both of them inside the square root. So square root 2 times 3. And 2 times 3 inside the square root equals 6. So 5 square root of 6 is my answer right there. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. I did it a particular way. Like, let's go back to the square root of 32. See how I broke it down to 4 and 8? Some of you might say, well, Mr. Schwant, can't we break it down to something else? Well, let's see. Let's see if we get the same answer. Okay. Can't I break this down into 2 and 16? Absolutely. 2 times 16 equals 32. And then I notice 16, if I wanted to, I can go 4 and 4, right? Because 4 times 4 equals 16. And then that breaks down to 2 and 2, 2 and 2. Or, let's say you didn't even catch that 16 was a perfect square. You can go this way too. 2 and 8. So there's a lot of different ways you can get to the answer, but ultimately the answer is going to be the same if you do prime factorization. So this breaks down to 2 and 4, and then this breaks down to 2 and 2. And again, if I circle my pairs, I have a pair of 2's here, which I put right there. I have a pair of 2's here, which goes right there. And this 2 is left over, so that's why that went inside. So you got the same answer, 4 square root 2, but there's many different ways to get there.